It's Livin the Bream with host of Fox News at Night, Shannon Bream.
All right, this week on Livin the Bream, we have a guest who could not be more timely, and his book could not be more timely. There's no way he could have known when he was writing this and putting it together the exact moment that we would be in. Joining us today, we have a GOP Senator from Texas, Ted Cruz. He is a shortlister himself for the Supreme Court, and he has written a brand new book called One Vote Away, How a Single Supreme Court Seat Can Change History. He's going to be on the Senate Judiciary Committee that is now seeing us through this next moment in history with the nominee Judge Amy Coney Barrett. Much to discuss. Welcome to Livin the Bream, Senator.
Well, thank you, Shannon. It's great to be with you.
Okay, so obviously in writing this book, you go through your own experiences. You've been a clerk there. I first met you when you were arguing cases there. And you talk about how tight some of these critical landmark decisions are. But did you have any idea when you were writing this book that we would be where we are today?
I didn't. That was pure serendipity. I mean, I wrote the book this spring and summer, and it was during COVID lockdown. So I was at home in Houston working from home. And so I pulled out my laptop and started writing in the living room. And obviously, I didn't know we'd have a Supreme Court vacancy in October, but I knew we'd have a presidential election in November. And so I wrote the book really with an eye to the election and to laying out the stakes, because I think this is one of, if not the biggest issues in the election. And for me, it was the single biggest reason I voted for Donald Trump over Hillary Clinton, is judicial nominations and the Supreme Court in particular. In 2016, we had Justice Scalia's vacancy. Actually, the book opens with the day Justice Scalia died, and I was in South Carolina. It was the day of the South Carolina presidential debate, and so I was sitting in debate prep, and my body guy came in and told us the news. We actually knew a couple hours before the news became public, because the local Texas sheriff, Justice Scalia, as you know, passed away at a hunting lodge in West Texas. And the sheriff called both John Cornyn and me and told us, hey, we just found Justice Scalia dead. And so the book starts with that, and my calling, as soon as the news became public, calling for that seat to be held vacant. And it goes through to present day, and as we find ourselves in the battle for Judge Barrett, that shows really the stakes have continued and have only gotten higher.
So what do you say at this moment to those who will point to 2016 and say that seat was held open? Merrick Garland was President Obama's nominee. He didn't get a chance. They'll say the distinction you guys are making this time is one without a difference, and that if you would spend months holding that seat open, why not wait a few weeks until this very contentious election is over to, quote, give the people a voice this time around?
Well, look, I think Donald Trump was elected to nominate principled constitutionalists to the court. That's a big part of why he got elected. And the Senate Republican majority was elected to confirm principled constitutionalists. You know, if you look at the history, this is, in both instances, what the Senate did in 2016, what the Senate is doing now, is consistent with 200 years of precedent in the Senate. 29 times we've had vacancies on the Supreme Court that occurred in a presidential election year. Presidents always nominate someone, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, a president nominates someone. 19 of those times, the Senate and the president have been of the same party. The Senate's confirmed 17 of those. And so confirming Judge Barrett is entirely consistent with 2 centuries of history. 10 of those times, the president and the Senate have been from different parties. And in those instances, the Senate has confirmed only 2 of them. And so the pattern, and you know, that's not just random. It's not just partisan. It's actually part of the constitutional system of checks and balances, that the Constitution assigns the responsibility of naming a new Supreme Court justice to the president and the Senate to confirm, and you need both together. And this was a major issue in the election in 2016. It was Donald Trump promised to nominate justices in the mold of Scalia and Thomas. That was dramatically different from the liberal judicial activists that Hillary Clinton promised to nominate. And the American people had that choice. Look, I continue to believe that had Justice Scalia not passed away in 2016, Hillary Clinton would have been the president. That vacancy decided the election for the president. And it was front and center in the 2014 Senate elections where the Republicans took the majority. It was front and center in 2016 when, again, we kept the majority. And in 2018, when we grew the majority. And so at the end of the day, it's the people that decide, and the checks and balances between the president and the Senate. That's how it's supposed to operate.
Do you worry, as some do, on the GOP side of things, that this time around it will cost you Senate seats, because this is the seat that's being vacated by the death of Justice Ginsburg, a liberal icon, a progressive icon, and that the left is determined to make you all pay should you go ahead and seat a new justice that's certainly not going to follow her in many respects, and not in their ideological or judicial philosophy.
So I don't, and I think that has the politics backwards. The left, there's no doubt the left is energized and enraged, but I think they were already pissed off. They already hate Trump. I don't think they can get more angry. You know, I've joked it's like Spinal Tap. Now it goes to 11. So they're really pissed off. They're going to show up and vote. I think this election battle in the month of October is going to end up helping President Trump and helping Republicans in the Senate, because it's going to give everyone else a reason to show up and vote. And it's going to energize voters, much the way Justice Kavanaugh, the battle over Justice Kavanaugh and the disgraceful behavior of Senate Democrats resulted in a really good election for Republicans because it energized voters. And actually, that's a lot of the point behind the book, One Vote Away, which is every chapter of the book takes on a different constitutional right. So there's a chapter on free speech, a chapter on religious liberty, a chapter on the Second Amendment, a chapter on democracy and elections. And what it does is it takes the readers behind the scenes, behind the curtain, to what's really going on at the court. This is not an academic book. It's not a book for lawyers. I mean, lawyers, I think, will enjoy it, but you don't have to be a lawyer to really appreciate and understand this book. Look, I think a lot of people look at the Supreme Court and they know it's important, but it's kind of confusing. It's hard to know what's going on. I mean, you covered the court for a long time. You understand that institution, but a lot of Americans don't. And what I try to do in this book is make the issues come alive. And so I tell war stories of big landmark cases of the court, many of which I helped litigate. And I take people behind the scenes to understand who the justices are, what's at stake, who the litigants are. Sometimes these cases have fascinating backstories, and I walk through a lot of that. And it helps people understand, you know, an issue after issue. I mean, the decisions are 5-4, 5-4, 5-4, one justice away. And I think in terms of the American people, I think actually Republicans, there is a large majority in our country that wants free speech protected. And we have had 4 justices willing to restrict the free speech rights of Americans. I think there's a large majority of Americans that want religious liberty protected, everyone's religious liberty, and yet 4 justices have been willing to take that away. I think the same is true on the Second Amendment. And so these are winning issues, I believe, and they're really good for us to be focusing on right now.
Well, and because you talk about the one vote, and a lot of times people don't understand, as you do, and as you lay out about what happens behind the scenes, the fact that they take that initial vote, but that can change. And it does many times, where the justices will write their opinions, hoping to bring someone from the other side over to them, which again, that one vote changes everything, the outcome of what becomes the law of the land, essentially. Tell us a little bit about that. I mean, the fact that that first vote isn't set in stone. There's still so much effort that goes behind the scenes with these colleagues trying to persuade each other through their writing, through their arguments, to bring us something that could change history.
Well, one of the most famous instances of it is actually an instance I talk about in the book, and it's Obamacare. And the first time Obamacare was before the Supreme Court. And the public reports, and typically these negotiations are not public, but there were, for whatever reason, a lot of leaks about this. And I have no reason to doubt the public reports on it, although I can't independently confirm them. The public reports were that John Roberts voted initially with the more conservative justices to strike down Obamacare, and that he switched his vote months after conference. And he ended up ruling to uphold Obamacare. And that switch, John Roberts is someone who I know quite well. Roberts was a law clerk for Chief Justice William Rehnquist. I was also a law clerk for Rehnquist. We were at different times, but we've known each other 25 years. And, I have to say I've been really disappointed by Roberts' tenure. And one of the things I write in the book, John Roberts has become the new Sandra Day O'Connor. And I think the beginning of that was that Obamacare case. And what Roberts ended up doing, you read that opinion. I still remember reading that opinion when it came down. The first 80% of the opinion is terrific. So there was a challenge to the individual mandate, which was the fine that Obamacare put on people to force them to buy health insurance, even if they couldn't.
For the full podcast, go to foxnewspodcast.com.